You're talking about putting into place leadership in these federal agencies who are absolutely unqualified, who are dangerous, and know nothing about the agencies that they're about to be appointed to lead. So this is not about qualifications. This is not about having a qualified federal workforce. This is about laying the ground for the purge.
Like to see assault in broad daylight? I give you Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury of New Mexico. So a few weeks back, actually, I just discovered this, taking on an idiot bunch of Republicans on their bill to try to censor what people say. Remember, they're for free speech, except for, of course, when it's any speech that's against them. So they want to pass this McCarthyite bill that will have blacklists of people they will kick out of government just for saying what they believe.
This is no time for men who oppose Senator McCarthy's methods to keep silent, or for those who approve. We can deny our heritage and our history, but we cannot escape responsibility for the results. We proclaim ourselves, indeed, as we are, the defenders of freedom wherever it continues to exist in the world, but we cannot defend freedom abroad by deserting it at home. The actions of the junior senator from Wisconsin have caused alarm and dismay amongst our allies abroad and given considerable comfort to our enemies.
This is like JD Vance's wet dream. Okay, he's been pushing this forever. They want to install, like Stalin did, all of their little functionaries and flunkies and corrupt idiots in government. They need to get rid of people that actually can do the job to do that. So here's what she has to say about this new McCarthyism.
Often in this committee, I'm a former federal employee. I used to work at OMB. One of OMB's jobs is to help manage the federal workforce. They work very closely with OPM, and we deal a lot with, the regulations and the legal system around federal employment. And I really want to emphasize the comments that were made by the ranking member about how unusual this bill is. We just had a letter introduced into the record from the Heritage Foundation that is supporting this bill because of misguided efforts to essentially stoke segregation, division, and create a victim-oppressor narrative, essentially, is what this letter of support says. But what is particularly peculiar about this massive bill that's been introduced, and I want to note that the co-sponsor of this bill, or this primary sponsor of this bill in the Senate, is Mr. JD Vance, our vice president-elect, is it literally, as the title says, is about dismantling diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in the federal government. It revokes executive orders, it amends the Civil Rights Act, and it amends other parts of the federal code that protect our federal employees. And then it has this peculiar section that the ranking member talked about, which is actually essentially creating lists of federal employees and contractors that would never be eligible to work for the federal government again. Now, we have a word for that in common parlance. We call it blacklisting. And blacklisting comes from the 1950s, when here in this House of Representatives, there was a committee on un-American affairs that was convened under Joe McCarthy. The purpose of that was to purge the federal government and to accuse federal employees and blacklist them from future federal employment. So I'd like to say, welcome to the new House Committee on Un-American Affairs and to the new McCarthyism, because we have arrived here today with this bill.
Oh, and yeah, the gentle lady will not allow you to speak. She's going to keep going and talk right over you.
So let's talk about what exactly is trying to be accomplished by this bill and by the upcoming administration, which the vice president-elect is participating in here. Now, okay, let's take the argument to its logical extension that this is really about making sure that we have qualified individuals inside the federal government. So my question is then, why is the president-elect choosing absolutely unqualified cabinet secretaries to be at the head of every single agencies? We've got now a worldwide wrestling executive who's going to run education. We've got a sexual predator who was about to have a bipartisan report released by the House of Representatives to be our AG. We've got a Fox News commentator who's going to run the military for us. So if my colleagues across the aisle want to talk about qualifications, they want to talk about efficiency, they want to talk about the federal workforce, then let's talk about it, because you're talking about putting into place leadership in these federal agencies who are absolutely unqualified, who are dangerous, and know nothing about the agencies that they're about to be appointed to lead. So this is not about qualifications. This is not about having a qualified federal workforce. This is about laying the ground for the purge that they plan on January 20th and in the days afterwards. And we know that because the very organization for whom the chairman just submitted this letter of support is the Heritage Foundation, who wrote Project 2025, which gave us the blueprint for the purge itself and what they are planning inside every single one of these agencies. So we need to be clear-eyed about what this actually is and about what is trying to be accomplished, and why 4 weeks before we're about to adjourn for the holidays, the Republicans are bringing this bill to a markup without an actual hearing.
Was Dorothy Nolan a member of the Communist Party, yes or no?
Don't you have an ounce of decency?
Mr. Merrill, unfortunate as it may be, Dorothy Nolan was a known drunk, an unfit parent, and on several occasions has been named to be a member of the Communist Party.
She was a good wife, a good mother, and you're responsible for her death.
On several occasions as being a member of the Communist Party.
She was falsely accused. She couldn't get work. Her son was taken away from her, all because of this committee.
Dorothy Nolan killed herself, and the Communist Party twisted her mind.
In the name of ridding the world of communism, you destroyed her life.
Was she or was she not a communist?
Don't you have any shame? She's dead!
Mr. Merrill, I'm getting tired of sitting here.
This is modern McCarthyism. They are preparing for a purge. They are going after members of the federal government who are advancing because they are people of color, women, LGBTQ+, other members of our community who have been excluded systematically from participating in federal service and leadership positions, and then they're going to put their own unqualified loyalists in there to take out our federal workforce. That is what this bill is about. It's about creating a statutory framework to do that, and we're going to fight it every step of the way.
This is it, Democrats. We're no longer in the drill. We're in the end game now. The fascist is taking over in a couple weeks. Tired of seeing Democrats concede, too many of them. Great to have this great new Congresswoman, or she's not new, I haven't seen her before, on our side fighting. Let's get back in the game and do what the Swalwells and Goldmans and Crockett's and others have done. And let's kick Republican ass and point out when they're complete idiots, which is about 98.7% of the time. They're really easy to embarrass.